The province of Newfoundland, as far east as Canada goes, with sheltered harbors and quaint fishing villages. Move off the water to the roads of the capital city, St. John's, and you can't miss the quirky folk art. Moose are part of the character here. They are everywhere. In 1904, the government brought a handful of moose from New Brunswick to Newfoundland. They thrived, and today there are as many as 150,000 moose on an island with just over 500,000 people. It's the largest concentration of moose in the world. They look all gangly, gentle, and cute, a huge draw for tourists and hunters.
Oh, Junior, my boy.
But to many, they have become a menace, a growing hazard on the highway. In 2010, there were about 700 collisions. Jonathan Neal was just 23, a budding electrician about to be engaged when he slammed into a moose. A tremendous tragedy for his parents, John and Nancy.
Jonathan is a working man. He's got a lot of ambitious, and he likes to live the life to the fullest. He knows what he wants, and what he wants, he goes and gets it.
He'd help anybody. He'd, like, if anybody need help with anything, he'd more or less give the shirt off his back to you. And even if he didn't know you, if you needed help with something, he'd help.
I'm fighting for Junior because today he's not here to do it. 1 year ago this morning, approximately 7:20 a.m., Jonathan and his buddy were driving along the stretch of road on the way to work in Upper Island Cove. When a moose stepped out of the altars and into the path, there was no time to react.
When I started driving this highway today, I was driving a death trap. Now, you heard me? I was driving a death trap.
1 year after Jonathan's loss, his family and friends returned to the place he died to keep a spotlight on his death and so many others.
These big animals are killing our kids. Now, if you do your statistics, I do believe that the most of them that have passed away from moose are young people. It's hard for us as parents, yes, because I still see it in my mind. You know, I still see Junior that day of the accident going on in the hospital, and then in the coffin, and after the fact, and day after day, and you're just going through it, right? And it's not easy. It's hard, really hard, unfortunately.
It's hard because tomorrow's his birthday.
You should get clean this one, no?
And of all times for this to happen, the day before his birthday, it's hard to distinguish what day. And having family and friends around today is going to get us through it.
Attorney Ches Crosby is also helping get Newfoundland through it. He has filed an unprecedented class action lawsuit against the provincial government on behalf of 75 plaintiffs who have suffered deaths or injuries requiring hospitalization. The lawsuit says the government introduced an exotic and invasive species that is now a public nuisance and is negligent in the introduction of moose to the island and in its management of moose and highway safety.
The government has failed to take measures to mitigate the danger posed when you have wildlife as large as a moose. They've been called rabbits, 1,000-pound rabbits on stilts is one term being used to describe them. And you know, when there is a confrontation between a motor vehicle and a moose on the highway, the car is generally going to be the loser. I mean, the moose doesn't do well either, but people are often injured, often enough killed, and sometimes very seriously injured indeed, with head injuries and with paraplegia, quadriplegia, spinal cord injuries.
The plaintiffs want to see compensation and call for reducing moose vehicle accidents in half over 5 years. They demand thinning the herds and installing fencing, warning systems, and lighting along the highways where moose are most likely to cross, measures that are proven to save lives.
But in certain selected areas where there are frequencies of moose collision, the real hot spots or danger spots, that's where you have to look at putting up 5 or 10 kilometers or whatever is appropriate of moose fencing, shown to be 90% effective in preventing moose vehicle collisions.
Get a knot in my stomach every time. Out of nowhere, this moose came and that was it. 16-point bull changed my life.
Linda Bishop, a mother, grandmother, and nurse, met her moose in the fall of 2004.
And I remember covering my face, praying to my mom and dad up in heaven to help me, please God help me, as my car was rolling and rolling and rolling, and I was choking with the seatbelt, and it was a pretty scary thing. Pretty scary.
Family home videos show Linda in the hospital immediately after the wreck, in tremendous pain.
How are you today?
But there's her Malibu.
I loved my job. I wanted to stay at my job, but because of my physical condition now I can't. So, oh, how many reports and bills and receipts and oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
The following is brought to you by the Save Our People Action Committee.
Linda now spends her days involved in the Save Our People Action Committee, or SOPAC, which is fighting so the government will take the problem more seriously and motorists won't take their lives in their hands every time they are behind the wheel.
Moose are Newfoundland's walking roadside bombs.
Are you angry at anyone in particular?
The moose, the government, for allowing the moose to roam the highways and allowing people to get hurt. That's what I'm angry about.
In its defense to the lawsuit, the provincial government denies that it was negligent in introducing moose to the island of Newfoundland and says the potential for moose vehicle collisions on the highway system of Newfoundland was not foreseeable at the time of the introduction of moose to the island. It also points to mitigation measures already taken by the government, such as reducing the population, a public awareness campaign, enhanced signage, and stepped-up brush clearing.
Half the problem here is the goddamn speed. If they only slow down and keep their eyes open, they wouldn't be hitting the moose.
Around the province, some think motorists are contributing to the problem and should just slow down.
You know, it was like when I was growing up as a boy here in Newfoundland, you know, everybody used to let their cattle run wild. So you were hitting cattle instead of hitting moose. How do you stop it? I don't know.
Well, the mainland.
Kill them all?
Yeah, but in the mainland, you've got your skunks, you've got your badgers, you've got your groundhogs, you've got everything that roams the road. Here we don't. We only have one. Yeah, well, but it's big. It's big.
What do you think of the fences that the government's going to put up? You think that'll help?
No. It might help. But you're not going to put enough, so it don't matter.
Outfitters and hunting guides like Ken Raymond admit it's a difficult problem, especially in the fall when moose are mating. But they don't think removing the iconic moose is the answer.
A bull moose at the peak of the rut is a very, very intimidating creature. I've actually killed a moose myself on the highway with a small Jeep and was lucky enough to walk away from it. And I understand the problem of moose vehicle accidents. On the other hand, I'm not sure that wiping out all the moose is the answer, because people do depend on moose. Newfoundlanders depend on moose for food, and Newfoundlanders depend on moose for work. And people spend millions and millions of dollars every year coming to Newfoundland to hunt moose.
Even with the government issuing more hunting licenses and spending $5 million on a fencing pilot program, victims say it's too little, too late.
Walk a mile in my shoes. And in a way, even though I suffer, I'm one of the luckier ones. I can walk today, and there's others that can't. They're in wheelchairs, so can you imagine how their lives are affected, how their families are affected? You know, yeah, so walk a mile in my shoes and then see how you'll feel about a class action lawsuit. For the government that brought the moose here and is not taking the responsibility for having them hanging around the highway.
We're going to carry on until something's done. We're going to stay at it. We're going to be in front of the government's face, and we're not stopping.
To have this snowball us right in the face, like to wake up one morning and find out your son's been killed because of a moose accident, it's hard. It's hard to swallow.
If you've got it, watch it. If you don't, call your TV provider to get HDNet today.